Hello BookTube, my name is Elizabeth. Welcome or welcome back to my channel, Book as in Books. I have a tag for you today. I'm very much behind on my tag, but I'm trying to catch up. I want to catch up. I'm catching up with the newest, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but I want to catch up with all my tags. And it's going to help if this setup works. So before I get to the tag, a few words on the setup. I'm trying something new. If you're not new to my channel, you probably noticed that. It is my regular filming spot though. That is not new. The difference is that instead of propping the phone against the windowsill, which is just right there, I propped it against the books that are normally above my head when I sit. So I'm not sitting, I'm standing, and the book is my phone is propped against the biography of Beethoven that you normally see above me. And that's the wall that is behind me. Okay, that's a useless sentence. But anyway, so this is an experimental setup. I hope it works. I can see a shadow behind me, but hopefully that's not too bothering. Because if this works, that means that I can film at night. So that would help a lot. That would mean that I don't have to film during lunchtime, which can be a bit difficult. And yeah, or on weekends, which also can be difficult for some reason. So that would help me a lot to catch up on all my tags. Second thing, if you see my left eye tear up, ignore it. I had a cold around Christmas time, and when I had a cold, I had a bit of a fever. It made me cry. I rubbed, and it got irritated, so I cried some more, so I rubbed some more, and I cried, and I rubbed, and I cried, and I rubbed, and you can see a vicious circle there. So since then, the problem is not solved. Every time I go outside, the cold makes my eyes tear up a lot, so I wipe some more, and anyway, so if you see my eye cry, I'm not crying for real. It's just tears that are, for some reason, just self-producing. They just never dry out. It's just, so ignore it. I'm not crying. I'm not broken-hearted in any way. Nobody punched me. This is not a wound. It's just irritation. So that's that. Okay, to the tag now. So the tag is the Historathon Ancient Cultures tag. It was created by Jack the Rambling Raconteur, who tagged me in his original tag. So I'm going to leave a link to it in the description box below, as well as to any channel that I will mention, because of course I'm going to mention some channel, if only to tag the people. So question number 1. So this is an experimental setup. As I said, the prompts are on my iPad to the left of the phone, so hopefully I'm going to be able to read them. Prompt number 1, the Romans. What books, writers, genres are your bread and circus? Jack gave just one answer for that, but to me, bread and circus are two different things. The bread is something that would be the basis of my reading diet, and the circus would be the entertainment. So I would say that the basis of my reading diet are classics. At least it is since the beginning of the year. So this is one that I'm currently reading. It is The Dangerous Liaisons by Choderlos de Laclos, and I'm reading this with Anne Novella and Micah Cummins for the book club Classics and Company. And I've started reading classics, like 19th century classics, a long time ago, as you will see during this video. But I also started reading more older classics, like real ancient classics, what classics used to be in the traditional sense. I've started reading like Greek plays and ancient epic poetry. I started that, what, a year and a half ago, approximately, not even a year and a half ago, like 13 months ago, and I just love it. So classics, I would say, are the bread of my reading. They're at the basis. If I don't read those, I'm probably not very happy. And then the circus, the entertainment, that would be romance. I love a good romance. I know it's purely for entertainment, and the thing with romance is that it doesn't last very long with me. I read the book, I get a little high, oh, that's fun, and then that's that, and then I forget about it, as opposed to the bread, which stays with me for much longer. So I particularly like historical romance, and I particularly like this author, Georgette Heyer. I discovered her last year, yes, in February of 2022, and in less than a year, I've read 9 of her books, including this one. So that's my circus. I really like that. Question number 2, the Sumerians. What is a work you read many years ago but still appreciate? Like Jack, I'm going to go to Dostoevsky. So this is The Brothers Karamazov. So this is not a book that I've read and reread and reread. So it's not something that stayed with me in that sense. However, I read this when I was 15 years old, And that was the signal for me that I could read anything that I wanted. After having read that, I was never scared by a book. There was never a book that I thought, I cannot read it. Books might have been intimidating, but it was never, I cannot read that. Because if I could read that, I could read anything. And after that, I read plenty of other Dostoevskys. I've read The Idiot. That is one that I read and reread and reread. And this one I read again for the second time 3 years ago, and it was not at all as I remembered it. I sort of remembered scenes that never existed, and yeah, the structure of the book was very different from what I remembered, but it's still a book that stayed with me, that had a lot of influence on me because of the time I read it. So the Dostoevsky. Question number 3, the Shang. What is your favorite non-example to pillory? This is The Executioner's Song by Norman Mailer, and I've talked about it in a video entitled Books That I Hated. So this is a book that I hated. It's huge. It's really, really long. It's tedious. It's not interesting. It's boring. It's very much an example of what not to do as an author. If you want to be an author who writes interesting books, don't do this. Non-example. And it won the Pulitzer. And I mentioned that it won the Pulitzer. I don't know why. It's not good. Question number 4. Early basket makers. Name an early work that points the way to later monuments. Okay, at first, when I saw the question, because the first thing that I do when I watch a tag is that I open the description box to read the questions. And then as I listen to the person answering the questions. And when I saw it, I thought, well, there's just like 2 answers possible, like Gilgamesh and the Iliad. Can you really answer anything else? But then I figured, okay, that's not what Jack means. He means an early work of an author that points to that author's later greatness. And I thought, okay, that makes more sense. There's more variety possible in there. That being said, there's not that many authors that I've read all of their works, so it was difficult for me to find one that I've read in early work and later works to say, oh yes, this points towards that. However, there is one author that I think is great and by whom I've read all of their books. Of whose books? Whose books I've read all. Anyway, I've read all of Jane Austen. And this is Sense and Sensibility. This is the first book she published, the second that she wrote. And I think it points towards Jane Austen's greatness. There are some issues in the book, so it's far from being a perfect book. The romance is not super wonderful. The romantic interests are not at the level of the heroines. The girls deserve better. And there's a structure issue, I guess, because there are some lengths in there. But that being said, you can see what will make Jane Austen great. The wit of Jane Austen is there. Her writing style is there. The characters, the way she builds characters is there. The way she plots it. Not the way she paces the plot, that she will get better afterwards, but the how she plots the relationships between all the characters, it's in there. So it really has all the ingredients that will make Jane Austen great, even though the book itself is not perfect. Question number 5. Question number 5. The Babylonians. What book did you expect to be impenetrable but found quite easy to sink into? And that would be another very big book, and that is Middlemarch by George Eliot. I read this for Victober last year, and I read this with a group. It was hosted by Greg from Another Bibliophile Reads, and the reason that I wanted to read it with a group is that I thought it would be difficult. I had read a George Eliot previously. It was Silas Marner, and I had found it difficult. I had found the writing difficult. So I figured, okay, if it's difficult for like 150 pages, 200 pages for Silas Marner, what will it be for this? So I was very happy to read it with a group. However, it turns out that it was not that difficult. The storyline is rather basic. There are multiple characters, so multiple plots, but the plots are very simple. It's like who marries whom, who inherits what, who lives, who dies, and it's just life in a small village. So there's nothing that is beyond any reader's grasp. There's nothing hard to understand in there. It's slow paced, so for a lot of people that is an issue, but for me it is not. And I found this to be just wonderful. I really liked this book. So it's not as hard as it looks. It's intimidating because of the length, but beyond that, it's not a difficult book. Question number 6, the Persians. How do you organize your bookshelves? Organize? I don't understand the question. I don't really organize my books. I separate the books that I haven't read from the books that I have read. And once I've read a book, I just try to find a place where it fits. I have to admit that I am at a point where I am starting to lack bookshelf space, so I have to be creative sometimes. But basically, that's that. If there's a space, it fits, and there's nothing beyond that. It's not separated by languages, by genres, by anything. It's just, if there's a place, there it goes, and that's that. Question number 7. Ishango bone of Middle Stone Age Central Africa. How does the length of a work affect your reading experience? I would say that the longer a book is, the longer it stays with me. And it's very simple. It's with shorter books, I will spend 2, 3, 4, 5 hours reading them. But longer books, I will spend 15, 20, 25 hours reading them. So it means that I spent a lot more time with the characters and I know them more. I spent more time with the story, so I will remember it more. So longer books stay with me for a longer time. Also, I have to read longer books in a certain amount of time. I don't know if I was conditioned because at first I always borrowed the books from the library. I didn't really have that much money when I was a kid, so I borrowed the books from the library. So basically I had 3 weeks to read a book. And I did read War and Peace in 3 weeks, and I did read the Brothers Karamazov in 3 weeks. And I guess it conditioned me, so now if I don't read a book in 3, perhaps 4 weeks, I sort of lose interest. So for bigger books, if I know that I'm reading multiple things at the same time, so for example, if I have a book for the BookTube Prize and a book for a readathon, and I'm also reading a big book separately, I'm going to give myself objectives. Like for the end of the week, I must reach page this. I must reach 200 pages or something like that. So I will have to pace myself to make sure that I read it in 3 or 4 weeks. But beyond that, I cannot say that I have a particular way of reading bigger books or shorter books. I think I read them the same. Question number 8, the Huns. How do you read/pack books while traveling? I still read paper books when I travel. I pack paper books. It will depend on the destination. So I love to bring a book that is about the destination by an author from the destination. So I will bring a book for the plane. I don't rely on electronics because they at first were not allowed to use it. We can run out of battery and etc. So I always bring a paper book with me on the plane, on the train, or whatever. If I go to a destination where I know that I will find books, I will not bring a lot of books. I will bring just that one book, perhaps 2 for the ride, and that's going to be that. So if I go to France, the US, the UK, whatever, I will just buy books at the destination. If I go somewhere like a beach vacation in a resort where I will not go out of the resort, then I know that my access to books will be limited, so I will pack a lot of books. I did that once to go to a resort. It was in Cuba, and I brought, I think, 6 books for a 1-week vacation. And yeah, I was very happy I brought these books, and it made the vacation more fun because I spent the week reading on the beach, which is really awesome when you think about it. I cannot say that I've seen Cuba, but I've been there and I've read books in Cuba. So yeah, that's what I do. Question number 9. I don't know that word. Aurignacian culture. There are a few cultures in that tag I will have to check. I don't know who the Aurignacians are, and I don't know who the Ishango bone are. And the Shang, I don't think I know them either, so I'm going to have to Google that. So with the Aurignacian culture, what are your favorite pop culture references to ancient cultures? Again, when I saw the question, I thought, well, there's just one answer for that. And no, apparently not, because Jack gave 2 answers and none of them are my answers. And my answer, there's just one, is the only one that is correct. It's Asterix. Yeah, Asterix. So the Celts, the Romans, that's Julius Caesar, see, Veni Vidi Vici, and the Celts again, and then we have the Greeks with the Olympics, and back to the Celts and the Druids. So but this is so funny. I love Asterix. It's the best reference to ancient cultures ever. Nothing can equal Asterix. It's one of my favorite comic book character, one of my favorite, yeah, it's so fun. I think Asterix was the first movie that I saw at the cinema. It was, I don't know the titles in English, of course. I saw the movie in French and I read the books in French. It's Asterix chez les Bretons, so Asterix goes to Brittany or Britain or something like that. It was hilarious, of course, and the book is hilarious, and everything related to Asterix is hilarious, except the very recent ones, because the main author passed away a long time ago in 1979, if I remember correctly, and after that the illustrator continued on his own, and some of the books that he wrote were fun, some of them were a bit a little less interesting. And then a few years ago, he passed the torch to another couple of writer. The illustrator is very good. He has acquired the drawing style of Uderzo, but the writer, the books are just boring. So I've read, I think, 2 of them, and both of them are very boring. So I don't bother much with the new Asterix. But the old ones, hilarious. I recommend that. So yeah, that was question number 9. Question number 10, the last question. The Minoans establish trade routes and tag some booktubers. So I'm going to tag all the channels that I've mentioned previously if they have not been tagged, and I'm also going to tag some people who are participating in the Historathon, Historathon, who are participating in Historathon. So I'm going to tag Jack from Spread Book Joy, Gareth from Books, Songs and Other Magic, and Talia from the channel Talia Nerds Out. And if you're on Storygraph, Talia created a challenge for Historathon on the Storygraph. So that could be a link that could be useful for you. And that's it for me. So if you've made it all the way here in the video, let me know in the comments. I would like to have your answer for question 9. I'm going to read it again. What are your favorite pop culture references to ancient cultures? As I said, the only one that I thought of was Asterix, and even now I cannot think of any other. It's the only one. So I'm wondering, do you know of another one? Do you have other favorite pop culture references to ancient history? Ancient cultures. Yeah, no, that's the one. It's unbeatable, Asterix. So that's it for me. Thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you in the next video. À la prochaine!